nice enough base, but kind of boring, wouldn't you say? Looks like it's time to renovate. This is Liberty Prime with Base Footers, and welcome back to RuneScape Dragonwilds. I'm going to show you how to take your builds from boring to exciting. And in this episode, I'm going to show you how to build beautiful bay windows and how to deal with all those frustrating little problems that the game's building system might throw your way. Best of all, this works with both Tier 1 and Tier 2 pieces. Now this is the build that we're going to fancy on up. It's got a bit of a split personality. One side is Tier 1 and the other side is Tier 2. So let's see if we can find some ways to make this boring base a little bit more interesting. This time around, I'm going to show you how to zhuzh up those windows just a little bit by switching these boring guys out for some fancy bay windows. We're going to start on this window with the simplest version, a single bay window. Now, like with most building in this game, this is easiest to do in the eye of Oculus, even though we're going to be working on an easy to reach spot. But to get those pieces to snap properly, sometimes you got to get at some pretty weird angles. And to make it even easier on myself, I'm going to position myself inside the house, out of the way. And of course, our first step is going to be to blow out this old window. Next, in our build menu, we're going to want to pick this small square tile. And whether you're building with Tier 1 pieces or Tier 2 pieces, well, it doesn't really matter because they're the exact same build piece, just different building materials. And we're going to snap just enough floor for our front bay window. And since we're doing a single bay, that means just wide enough for one of these narrow single width windows. But we're not actually putting in the window yet. Back to our small square tiles. Now we're going to position this tile as if it were just about to butt up against this one, and then we're going to rotate it 3 clicks. And now you see that pulsing blue point right there at the corner? That's where we're going to snap it. And we're going to snap a second one right in front of it. And again, you see those pulsing blue snap points? We want to make sure that those are in the proper spot, and it looks like they are. And then we're going to do the same thing over on this other side. Yep, it's correctly lined up. And a second one in front. And now we're going to move this front line so that it matches these 2 points on either side. And basically all we have done here is move this front line forward about half the width of this tile. But as you can see, it's still lined up properly with these original floor tiles, just a little bit further forward. And now we can actually put in our bay windows. And it doesn't really matter which order you put them in, just as long as those blue snap points are all in the proper spot, which they are. Now it does join up just a little bit funny there, but don't worry, there's a very easy way to hide that with these window inserts. Because once you've got those in place, well, you can't really tell what the joint looks like. Not from the outside or from the inside. The next step, we're going to put in a little bit of a ceiling up here, and that's going to be easier than putting in the flooring because you've got both these diagonal pieces and the flooring pieces behind this wall to snap to. So you can be very sure that you're going to be snapping in the correct spot. But just to double check, pay attention to those pulsing blue points. And sometimes it might wind up being easier to do some parts of this from the inside. Which of course is another wonderful thing about the Eye of Oculus, you can just pop through the wall whenever you need to. And finally, we're going to top this off with the last part, which is a little extra fitting given all this rain that's suddenly coming down, the roof. Now this is one place where there is a little bit of a difference between these Tier 1 pieces and these Tier 2 pieces, and that's because of these nice little 60-degree pieces that you have in Tier 2. They are not available in Tier 1, sadly. However, we're not going to need those for this part. We're going with the 45-degree angle roof because that matches the rest of our roofs pretty nicely. Now we are going to stay in basic snapping for this because it's going to be the easiest way to make sure that it snaps where you want it to. But we're going to be rotating this 3 snaps again. So we're going to put one piece here, and you see how all those blue snap points are lining up correctly. But just to make sure that it's lined up correctly, take a quick look at the front part of this roof piece and make sure that it's hanging over rather than staying back a little bit too far. But this is in the proper spot, so let's go on to the next step, which is to put a second one of these roofing pieces right behind it, spin around again so that it meets up nicely right here. And what we want to achieve is for this ridge to be sort of buried in the wall, where you can see some of the walls still poking through, kind of unpleasantly right there. And now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Rotating this properly and checking all these snap points to make sure that it's lined up correctly. We want both of these ridges completely facing forward. And we want to make sure that this ridge is buried in the wall, and it is. Now we're going to switch back over to the small 45-degree roof. We're going to rotate this so that it's straight. And we're going to pull it forward as far as it'll go, just to make sure that it's snapped in the correct spot, and it is. We're still looking at those blue snap points. Alright. Now you might be wondering why I'm not using the medium piece for this. That's because for some weird reason the medium piece is, well, it's just a little bit wider, so you can see how it sort of overflows on either side of those ridges, whereas with the small piece, it doesn't. But we're going to basically manufacture a medium piece out of these small pieces by snapping 2 more on top of this. And there we now have a, well, basically a medium piece, just built up out of the small. Alright, let's look at it from the inside. Ooh, it's a bit messy inside. Well, thankfully, there is a cure for that. We can't actually clean this up, but, well, we can do a good job of hiding it. So let's get back over to our out-of-the-way position, and right back into the Eye of Oculus. And basically, we are just going to be performing a nice little cover-up here, using these pieces. And now, we do need to go into the advanced snapping mode. And we're going to snap this right along here, and just hide that. And to finish this particular bit of the cover-up, we're going to put some ceiling pieces here. And we're using these nice skinny pieces because that's all we need for the moment. But that's not the only part that needs to be covered up. We've got some stuff up here that needs a little bit of cover-up as well. So I'm basically going to make a nice big windowsill for this. Now I could put it all the way across, or I could just build it right here on the spot that needs it. But I think for this particular one, I'm going to go all the way across. And then I'm going to build this down. I think I'm going to go with these half-height shelves, and I'm going to switch back over to basic just to make it a little bit easier on myself. There we go, and now we've got a nice cozy little shelf here, and you can fit all sorts of little knickknacks up here too. And there we go, we've got some cleverly concealed little bit of roofing mess in here. And a nice cute little roof outside too. And there's the Tier 1 version of our single bay window. Now let's see what it looks like in Tier 2 real quick. And we're going to go through exactly the same steps, because it is pretty much exactly the same building process. We're going to start with our floor base, and you can switch between the advanced and the basic, just depending on whichever one seems most convenient at the time, as long as you pay attention to which snap points are being highlighted to make sure that you're getting the right results. And we add in our ceiling real quick here, and again, it becomes a lot easier to deal with the ceiling than it was with the floor, because you've got both this window here, and this wall here, and this floor back there that you can't even see to aid you in snapping in the correct spot. And now we're going to plop down our roof real quick. And again, this is the exact same process as in the Tier 1, it's just, slightly different looking pieces. And for this, I am definitely going back to basic, because that is a much better way to guarantee it's going to snap exactly as it should. And let me show you real quick what it looks like when it's not snapping exactly as it should. Could be too far to one side or the other, or could be too far back, or could even be too far forward. But that's the correct spot, so let's go ahead and go with that. And we're going to put in these small 45-degree roof pieces, again making sure that it's snapping as close to us as possible. Those lovely little pulsing blue glows. And it always seems to be raining when I'm trying to work on roofing. Let's finish this out with those window inserts, which don't seem to have any glass in them, but hey, still feels a little bit more secure in the rain. Alright, there we go, we've got our Tier 2 completed. And now there's one thing that you might notice, and it's a little bit more obvious on the Tier 2. You see how these are joining up and leaving a big old space between them? Well, let's see if we can do something to conceal that. We're going to be using these vertical thin beams, and you can have them either at 45-degree angle, or straight on at a 0-degree angle. It just sort of depends on which look you'd like. You could also go just a little bit in between the two options, like that. And if that doesn't cover up quite enough for you, you can go with one of the big thick ones. But that leaves it looking a little bit funny at the bottom if you ask me. It's up to what you're going for. But I think I'm going to go with the thin ones at a 45-degree angle. And of course we can do the same thing over here on the Tier 1 side, but with some Tier 1 beams. And well, it doesn't matter what angle those are at. And there you go, it's a little bit less obvious that there's something weird going on. But now we have our Tier 1 single bay. What if we were to go for something a little bit wider? Because we have plenty of room for a 2-bay window up here. And I think that'll be a nice little feature above our door, don't you? Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to tackle that in the next video. But if you've enjoyed learning how to make bay windows, please do leave a like on this video. And if you want to learn more tricks and tips for building in RuneScape Dragonwilds, please don't forget to subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!